Well, a little bit surprisingly off the back of getting a couple of job interviews late last season with Buxton off the back of getting them promoted up to EFL League 2 during the off-season. Nothing else came through, so we're still here with the Bucks going into our first season up in the EFL, and we've also done a bunch of transfers, including losing some pretty big players because of release clauses. Whoops. Hello everyone, and welcome to episode number 26 of Rookie to Royalty here on Shaun Does FM, still with Buxton FC. I hope you're doing well, and coming up today, we'll play our first game of the EFL League 2 season. It's an interesting one as well, as we host the Forest Green Rovers team that really should be a team quite beatable, predicted to finish in 20th. If you're wondering, despite the transfers I've done, it's the exact same situation as last season. We predicted to finish 24th, but this season, it's probably justified. You can already see the couple of changes in that bottom right corner of my face cam is not blocking it, but I think this season we might be in a little bit more trouble than was the case last season, considering that South Shields back then were predicted to be one of the teams in the playoff picture. This season, the team promoted alongside us in Scunthorpe, they're 23rd, so I actually think this season could be a little bit of a tough one. But if you missed what happened at the end of last season, at the end of last week, I'll leave a link to that one over in the top right corner so you can catch up. We did have a job interview there with Barrow. To be fair, not too sure if that would have been much of an upgrade, but either way, they didn't actually end up offering us the job. That went to Nigel Pearson. During the course of the off-season, you actually see there quite a few jobs did come up. Peterborough United was one I would have been really keen on, considering they're the red hot favourites to go up to League 1 for next season, but Chris Coleman got that. We never got any more interview offers off the back of that Barrow one, so it did mean I've just worked my way through the off-season transfers off the back of the end of last week. Also, I did record that episode on Tuesday, New Zealand time. We're recording this one on Thursday. I was talking about Arsenal bottling the Premier League, not the Champions League. Declan Rice was seriously wicked in that Champions League game against Real Madrid. So yeah, just to clarify, don't think Arsenal are that bad actually in the Champions League. It was more a Liverpool thing for me in the Premier League. Surely they won't catch us. Fingers crossed, otherwise that's going to look really, really bad come a couple of weeks' time. But you can see there our two best players are apparently the worst best players in the league. This could be a little bit of a tough season. So first up, let's get into the transfers we've done here. To be fair, with the transfer budget that we did have all of it in the wage side, we did make the most of that and just do 3 transfers apart from one. So I think the best way to look at our squad going into the season is just to run through it here on the tactics screen. So in goal, nothing's changed here. Charlie Casper first choice, and down on the reserves, that is Eric Hambury. Right back's the same as well with our first choice one and Alfie Pignon. There's a reason there's no McKnight. We'll get to it later when we cover off our strikers, because that's also related to a similar situation that did happen with one of our best players here last season. But it does mean currently we've just got Pignon as a right back. Harry Leeson have to do a job for us here for a little while as the backup in the under-21s. Joseph Cunningham is injured. Otherwise, he'd be there on the bench as the backup instead of Leeson. But extra subs here in League 2 does make that bench a little bit deeper, so a bit more handy that we can have some extra players down there. Centre-backs as well, not much has changed there in terms of our starters. Alusi and Hewlett do keep their spots. Also down here, obviously, Leeson still in the squad mainly as a centre-back, but one new player we've brought in there in terms of the centre of defence. Thomas Williams comes in as a slightly better option than Henry Curtis, who have dropped down to our under-21s, the Welshman formerly from Newcastle United. We picked up there on quite a low wage. He looks quite handy, only 4-star potential, but I've tried to sign some players to improve on him as a bit of a squad player, and they haven't been as good. So to be fair, he'll be quite solid for us there as a 4th choice centre-back if we do need to use him. And in our under-21s, we're also quite deep there with the likes of Costello as well as Curtis. Jack Quirk under loan bid, as is Elliot Jones, that player that we picked up from Man City that you saw during the course of that end of season review at the end of last week. Not too much change there at centre back. Our defence is quite solid from last season, but left back is where quite a few changes do come with signing Jaden Sweeney, who comes in as the club captain. In pretty much every case this season for the signings that we have made, it was just they were better than what we had here, and I thought that was probably a good idea going into League 2, because I was expecting this to be pretty tough off the back of back-to-back promotions, and it's still the case despite the signings that we have made. This guy has a fair bit of experience around the sort of same level that we are now actually up a little bit higher in League One with Leighton Orient as well as Wickham Wanderers the last couple of years, but on a free, he was an upgrade on both Jake Leake as well as Kazim, so we brought him in as a new first choice left back here, the 24-year-old, a pretty solid option as a wing back, could also do a job as a full back. We'll get to the tactics shortly before we get stuck into this first game of the new season, but Jaden Sweeney is our first choice, and down the bench also a new backup, and Jake Vokins, the two new options for us here this season at left back. The same reason he was a little bit better than what we had in Jake League, who would have been the backup going into this season. He's actually now a little bit upset, so he's transfer listed as well as loan listed already. We've loaned out Kazim because he has a little bit more potential than Jake League does. So we've ever changed there at left back for this season, just improving where possible. Now in ball wing midfield, this was an area I really wanted to improve in because we let go of Connor Kirby at the end of his contract. In the end, we did sign someone, but he won't feature in the first game of this new season on a heavy workload off the back of the limited preseason he has had here. But the one player that we did sign for a fee as well as with an ESC slot, Dennis DeWuna, came in from USA at Las Vegas in the USL Championship. 3-star current ability and 4-star potential. We signed him for a fee of 2K, so not too much money. I think mostly that was just a tariff fee, but in the end, he was the best player we could find by an absolute mile to come in and be that first choice ball wing midfielder. We'll just go back here to his profile so you can see that he's nothing too special, but a lot better than Mohammed, who still has a contract here at the club. So wanted to improve there on that first choice ball wing midfielder. As it turns out, he's on a heavy workload, not that injury prone, but we've got some quite big games early on this season, including the first round of the Carabao Cup. So we'll play Mohammed in this first game of the season, can bring on DeWuna if we absolutely need to. And also still here, got the likes of Hayden Lindley, who can do a job in that defensive midfield role. Central midfield, another area that we did find an improvement on Ben Midgley, which to be fair is pretty harsh considering how good he was, especially coming back from injury late on last season. But Eddie Manning comes in as a new first choice, formerly of Norwich and Watford. He's quite handy, 3-star current ability, 4.5-star potential, so we have bought him in just a little bit there of an upgrade, and still quite young there is the 22-year-old. Going forward to advanced playmaker, no changes here. Sebastian Williams is still first choice as an area. We got nowhere near finding someone who was an upgrade down the reserves. Charlie Pavey is there as well as Caden Kelly, who's injured for the first part of the season, should be back though maybe in a couple of episodes time, because as I said, a couple of interesting games we've got early on here in our season. So that moves us forward into the wings now. We've got here Colville and Kelly, who will be staying this game, but they're actually the backups for this upcoming season. Colville's still here, but the partner from last year, Ryan McLean, his contract expired, and I thought we could improve. In the end, we eventually did, but unfortunately, the player we signed to replace him there on that left wing did pick up an injury in pre-season. Pretty similar case there to Caden Kelly. He's almost back, but Chris Z comes in, the Malaysian international, who is part English. Just a bit of an upgrade, even though that current ability and potential in terms of stars does not look too much better, but trust me, he is an upgrade. He'll get the starting spot there as that inverted winger on the left-hand side. Unfortunately, in the pre-season, a pulled calf muscle, out for 5 to 11 more days. So usually he'd be there at left wing. Cole Kelly gets the first run for the season. Also, actually, there should be a backup a bit better than Cole Kelly as well in Lewis Jones, but he comes in this one on a very heavy workload and quite injury prone. The former Liverpool lad, we did tell him he'd be a regular starter because when we signed him, his attributes actually were better than George Morgan, so I told him he could start for us. In the end, that didn't actually quite work out with that signing of Say. I did think that we maybe could put Morgan up front and Jones out left. In the end, we improved in both those areas, but 3-star current ability, 4.5-star potential, a very useful player to have there on £900 a week there, the former Liverpool man. So that's what we've improved there at left wing. At right wing, Aston Muir comes in as one of the highest paid players here now at the club on 2.6k a week, the Scotsman, formerly of Manchester City, but unfortunately, he got injured during the course of pre-season, only recommended for 45 minutes of action, so we'll try and get him back to full fitness during the course here of these first couple of games of the season. A very good left foot, the right foot not too good, but he looks a bit better at right wing, kind of like was the case with Colville and McLean last season. I'm thinking that again it might be the case where the player's on the wrong side with their feet, might actually work out here. So hopefully that will be the case. Otherwise, Muir can go to left wing and Zay can go to right later on the season. But usually Muir and Zay, they would be our stars there on the wings. But for this game, because of workloads and injuries, it's Colville and Cole Kelly. And then we get up front, Jed Gardner we brought in as an improvement on George Morgan. Thankfully, that was the case, as we'll get to shortly. But in terms of attributes, he is an upgrade there with his 3.5-star current ability and 4-star potential. Also, build-wise, he's quite similar, 1.88 meters tall and 1 centimeter shorter than what George Morgan was. So he shouldn't miss out on too much there from set pieces. Quite a like-for-like replacement there in our first team. The 27-year-old who's spent some recent time at Chesterfield performed decently for those guys when they were up in League One. So certainly should be able to do a job for us here in League Two. The backup on the bench is Ellis Lahane. He's still here at the club. And that's probably where we need to start to get into some of the moves that we made. And I say some of the moves that we did make. I didn't really have much of a choice. Obviously, a few players got let go with the contracts expiring. We'll try and pick those first before we get stuck in here. To the players that did go for a fee, you can probably tell we got some money there now, because 116k in our transfer budget and still 10k in the wage budget remaining. Also, Hamid Abdul Salim hopefully will come in as the backup right back. Just hasn't quite happened yet, to be fair. He's also underbid from Shrewsbury Town, and those guys are also in League Two and probably a bit of a stronger clubs. Not too sure if he'll join us, but hopefully there'll be the guy who does come in as the replacement for McKnight, who you'll see shortly did depart. In fact, we might as well get it out the way now, seeing as we are on the screen. Wimbledon did some business with our release clauses. It only happened a little while ago, last week or so in game, off the back of the replacements that we already had lined up for those guys. So to be fair, it won't hurt us too much. But George Morgan for 28k, that does feel a little bit cheap. We tried to get him on a new contract once that release clause did get triggered. He wanted to be an important player, and he wouldn't have been here. So unfortunately, St. George, our star from last season, is no longer here. He's up in EFL League One with Wimbledon, and they did the exact same thing with Max McKnight. To be fair, this one doesn't hurt too much considering he was a backup right back for us last season, but he's gone. That was for a slightly higher fee of 48k. Annoyingly, he's now been put on the loan list. Not too sure if they really needed to sign him, but to be fair, I think we saved wage once that deal did go through. And also Morgan on 2k a week when he was here. That's kind of helped out our wage budget, even though both those players would have been quite handy to have around to bulk out our squad here in League Two. So those are the players that did depart Wimbledon there, making the most of some of those release clauses I forgot to sort out. And in terms of players that we did let go on a free, in fact, we'll go over here and go to release players. This probably works out a little bit better. You can see there lots of players that did depart, but to be fair, most of those were at the end of our previous season. This season, David Carson, Connor Kirby, Will Truman, Ryan McLean, Reece Truman, and Nathan Giblin. They have all departed. A few more players we did sign down there in our under-21s, including a New Zealand left back in Blair Gully, because he looked like a little bit of an upgrade on Nathan Giblin, the former Spurs man. A bit of an upgrade there, just looking to improve there where possible with those signings that we have made. And now, if we really do struggle early days here this season, we can always use that extra transfer budget that we do have, albeit the transfer window does close a lot earlier here in League Two than it did back when we were a National League club. So hopefully that's a good enough recap of what we've done transfer-wise. Technically, it's pretty similar to what we used here most of last season, but using some stuff that was working when I was trying some things out off the back of those slightly iffy performances we were putting out before we did secure that title. So it does mean both our fullbacks now are wingbacks on support, and also we are going with a slightly higher tempo. But apart from that, it's the same Buxton base that did work so well for us here last season. Fingers crossed it gets the job done here in our first game of the season against Forest Green Rovers, predicted to finish around that 18th to 20th mark. And with this one being at home, I'm quite hopeful we can pick up at least something from this game. Otherwise, we might be in for a little bit of a tough season, albeit some of these guys are still quite new here. They might need some time to get used to how we play here with this Buxton team. But certainly, this looks like a relatively kind opening fixture. Let's hope we can make the most of that. Interesting to see that their key player, Max Volkman, I'm pretty sure formerly of Liverpool, indeed that was the case. Attribute-wise, might be a bit of an upgrade on the types of players we do have here at Buxton. So I'm expecting this season to be a lot tougher than the last one was here, even though we were also expected to struggle in that one. As I mentioned earlier, the season preview last year at South Shields quite high up, and in the end, we beat South Shields to promotion the year before. So I think this time it might be a lot tougher. Up in a league fully professional, we might be in for a tough time here this season. Hopefully, though, we can just do enough to make sure these guys are going to be a safe team around mid-table, low the mid-table. I think I'll take that in our first season here with this Buxton team in League 2. But in terms of changes to our regular first 11, we ran through a few of them before Mohammed comes in there in ball wing midfield, and also the wings with Colville and Kelly, with those other players coming back from injuries or being quite injury prone for this game. So hopefully we can get something here against the team. I'd like to think we can take some points off. We'll give the Evokans number 2 coming in there, seeing as we did loan out Kazim to Dagenham and Redbridge back down in the National League for this upcoming season. Thankfully, they're going to pay all his wages. A couple of other players are currently under loan bid, just no one from our first team. But there are the team sheets. Hopefully can do a decent job here. I'm very happy and extend the bench to be. If you're not too sure, if we only get 3 subs still, or we get 5 subs, we'll figure that out during the course of this first game of the season. But as I said, I'm really hopeful here we can pick up something from this game, despite the fact quite a few new players, and some of these guys, honestly, I don't want staying too many games, in particular Zayn Mohammed. I was really hopeful we could sign a couple of ball wing midfielders who might be better than him. As it turns out, that's not the case, but now we're up in League 2. We've got some wonderful match graphics, which look very, very nice, so that's now a good thing that we do have here. There are Forest Green going with the same formation, a 4-3-3, so we'll see which 4-3-3 is the best in this game. And this is a team that really I want to be picking up points against this season. Otherwise, as I've said a few times now, we might be in a little bit of strife here in League 2. But a very early highlight, which is concerning from the kickoff, is Forest Green. They are on the ball. Forson here gets put under a bit of pressure there from our new striker in Ghana, but they do still keep the ball there, played across the ball win, but so far taking their time here. The away team played out there to bunker, where they get trapped in the sand here at the Tarmac Silverlands. Good work there from Kelly to win that ball back for us. Nice footwork there from Ghana, who takes on a shot looking for the top left corner there at that near post. Goes oh so close, but unfortunately not quite on target. But that is an encouraging start there for one of our new players. But now Forest Green here are on the attack. Voltman, the dangerous player, a good block there. It's an absolute mess, but thankfully a header just goes wide, because that was absolute pinball wizard there inside the box. But thankfully they just missed the target there off what should have been an open net. A few minutes later, it's a free kick. Casper can save that one. We'll just pause here, and I will get our striker on a yellow card to ease off tackles. Lahane probably going to come on now at half-time with that situation, but I'll be fair, 1 point from this game I'll be quite happy with, currently sitting in 7th there on the league table. Good work from Kelly again. He's looking quite good early at pressing in this game to win that ball back for us, and thankfully we keep this at 0 all, but off the back of that very good early chance to Ghana, it has been Forest Green who have been on the front foot. We'll see if we need to switch back to what we were doing most of last season, but I do want to see what the slightly higher tempo tactic does do, because it did work late last season when the other one was struggling in that little run home, which in the end was not that important, seeing as Scunthorpe, they were fumbling as well. But hopefully this might just mean we're a bit more dangerous on the attack. But defensively, I'm a bit worried with those wingbacks on support, and maybe that's why. A ball over the top there from McCann, and Agawa can put that one away. So we're 1-0 down here in our season opener as our Barrow, so maybe not too bad. We did not get that job, but I'm already thinking maybe we go back here to the original Buxton base at halftime, because this has not been very good in the first half. Off the back of that early chance, the gunner will still encourage, because really we're not expected to do too much here this season. If we get in trouble, we might need to consider what we do with this Buxton job, because honestly our contract expires at the end of the season, and the Tycoon's not pumping that much money in here with this Buxton team. But we're on the ball here, hopefully can equalise just before half-time. Williams up to Ghana, and it's a good chance there for Colville, but just puts that one wide of the left-hand upright. That would have been really useful if we put that away. And now Jim Hewlett on a 6.4 picks up a yellow card. A few players out there on 6.4, so I think here at halftime, honestly, we're not doing badly. but let's just see if the regular Buxton base might work a bit better than the slightly higher tempo one we did use late last season, just as I was saying what would work actually potentially going into the season. So we'll go back to the low tempo and those fullbacks on support, and also let's take off these players who are struggling. And we do have 5 subs, so it's going to be Leeson here at right back. That's not really ideal. He's not too comfy there. Thomas Williams will come on for a debut for the club there for Jen Hewlett, and Jed Gardner, Alice Lahane can come on for him. We'll just get him there to ease off tackles now that he's not sitting on a yellow card. But not a great first half from us there. It's fair to say we're 1-0 down against the team at home. I was kind of hopeful that we could kind of take something off. I told the guys here our shooting has not been that great. Our new striker, not too happy with that. We'll just try and pump happy the players who are still out on the field. Pump the fists. You weren't that bad. I kind of believe in you. I think, honestly, I'm not too sure this season. Not quite as much belief as I had last season with the preview of Scunthorpe that we saw earlier, but an early corner here in our favour, and unfortunately we can't do anything from it, albeit Colville is now on the attack, looking to again beat the goalkeeper at his near post. I'm not too sure why we're doing that. Looked like there was a lot more room on that left-hand side. Unfortunately, our shots so far in this game have not been that great, and we're still a goal down, albeit putting good pressure here. Now through Lahane, makes his way inside the box, pulls that one back there, looking for Colville, but the pass isn't quite on the money, and now Forest Green actually a good chance on the counter. Thankfully, we break things up, and again here, on the attack, so maybe the lower tempo is going to work, but again, Colville not on the mark, and then we play it back in there. Leeson to Colville, pulls it across for Sebastian Williams, our first goal scorer in League 2, only 3 minutes off back of that change we made at half-time. We grab our equaliser, so maybe we should have stuck there with the old faithful from that title run last season, but Colville, he had a couple of chances to shoot the ball. They weren't too great, but when he tries to get the assist, he nails it, and Williams can sweep that one home and make it 1-1. So well and truly back now in this game already. We got more XG there than we did in pretty much the entirety of the first half. Now, Jaden Sweeney has picked up a yellow card, also going a bit fairly on debut on a 6.4. So with one of our remaining 2 subs, those extra subs will be so useful this season. I love them already, but Jake Bokins can come on for his debut, and hopefully he can make it a good one here and help us pick up maybe all 3 points from this game. Just seeing who else out there might be struggling. Muhammad could be a good play here to take off late, albeit now thrown for us here inside the final thirds. Before we think about that, we've got the ball here, and it's a penalty in our favour. Kyle Kelly goes down. Now, fingers crossed this season, we're a bit better in front of goal from the spot, to be fair. Not too sure who's on these. It's Colville. The goalkeeper goes the right way. I thought that was going to get saved, but Luca Colville finally puts the ball in the back of the net. I do think now the Buxton base from last season, it's coming back, because 2 goals in 16 minutes, we make it 2-1, 17 minutes, but who's counting? We make it 2-1, and that is exactly what we're after. Now, we will praise the boys here. Definitely thinking Muhammad coming off might be good for our final sub, especially with that ESC slot player. Probably want to use him as much as possible with that situation. Want to make sure he plays enough minutes to make sure that he can keep his spot here if we want to keep him around. But Cole does drop down to a red heart, so probably a better idea here to bring on probably our star signing during the off-season in Ashton Muir with this final sub. So let's bring on here the Scotsman, the former Man City lad, and hopefully he can make an impact there. As now Sebastian Williams drops down to a red heart, but 2-1. This would be pretty good. Make our way to the final 10 minutes. Let's just start to ever so slightly time waste a little bit. Just do a bit of sometimes now, and we'll change things a bit more if we can keep this 2-1 lead, making our way up to the 85-minute mark. But thankfully, good turnaround from us here in the second half of this game. And now it's time for full time wasting. We won't pass into space. We'll do that more frequently. And also, let's get Casper to slow the pace down. So hopefully that will help us out here late on in this game. Make sure we can pick up 3 points, which would be a very encouraging start, albeit as I say that there's a highlight. We look for Lahane, we don't quite find him, and now it's Forest Green here trying to make their way out from that. But so far the second half, we've been quite good defensively, putting pressure on them. Kelly again there, nearly gets the job done. Pull there from Forest, and Lahane, can he make the most here of this chance on the break? He can't. He's a dribbler, and he does it for far too long there. He must have some wet sheets at night, albeit now we get the ball back there from a poor pass from the Forest Green goalkeeper. A long-range effort, but that one not quite on target. But Lahane there probably could have taken a shot a bit sooner and tried to catch the goalkeeper out there while making his way back from that pass that did get a little bit messed up there at the back for Forest Green. But that is a brilliant start to life in League 2 definitely looked a lot better there highlight-wise once we switched to lower tempo and those fullbacks on support. You'll see there with the ratings of those guys we bought on Vokins a 7.2 and Leeson a 6.7. The two that started only got 6.4, so I think we're going back to the lower tempo that worked oh so well for us last season, and we come from behind and pick up a 2-1 win there thanks to goals to Sebastian Williams and a penalty that got scored from Luca Colville to make sure we get off to a winning start here in League 2. That's definitely the type of game that we do need to win. We'll tell them they've done brilliantly to come back and pick up a result there, and thankfully some of the guys that were here last season actually stood up there and got the job done for us. No doubt when those guys who have just signed get a bit more time here with this Buxton team, they can help us improve just a little bit. But that is a great start already inside of a playoff spot. But I don't think that's going to be the end game this season. Just staying up here in League 2 should hopefully be a good achievement with this Buxton team. But that is a brilliant start coming from behind there to pick up a 2-1 win over Forest Green, albeit it was quite a kind opening day fixture. So hopefully now we can kick on in our next couple of games, which will be trickier away from home, taking on our former affiliate club in Mansfield Town. To be fair, they weren't the best affiliate. We didn't get a loan player from them. They were up in League 1 last season though, but got relegated. That's the reason that that affiliation did come to an end so quickly. If you're wondering now if we've got a new affiliate, we do. We took them on in pre-season. It's Stoke City. So now we're actually affiliates with both a football club and a bit of a meme there. We are now affiliates with cold, windy weather, but hopefully we can get some benefit from that if we need to. And apart from that, our pre-season form actually was quite good. So that's the reason I thought that slightly higher tempo might work. As it turns out, going to lower tempo, that was the difference maker there in that second half. So we'll change that to finish things off here in today's episode. And hopefully when we come back for the next one, we can pick up another couple of good results. Let's also chuck here these fullbacks on support, and I'll get them to train that off camera before we come back for the next episode off the back of a winning start in Sky Bet League 2. But hopefully you guys did enjoy that one, those transfers as well as that first game up here in the EFL. If you did, then do remember to go down below, leave a thumbs up on the video, and if you haven't done so already and are enjoying the series here on the channel, also make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn that notification bell as well. Now, we'll come back tomorrow. Now, in real life, as I'm recording this, it's my birthday tomorrow. I'll probably get quite drunk and not progress too far in between now and when I do the next recording. So because of that, and the fact also, definitely more importantly, we have our first crack in the Carabao Cup. We'll come back and take on Crawley Town. They're also a team in League 2, predicted though to finish second. So that is a much tougher test away from home. First up in tomorrow's episode, we'll see what we can do in the Carabao Cup this season. Not too sure if we'll take it too seriously, but still will be quite interesting to see how we get on there against one of the pre-season favourites. And as I said, the Mansfield Town, our former affiliates, the former home of the Wayne train these days, they've just got Keanu Backus, the Australian, formerly of St Mirren. We'll see how those guys are if we can get a result against them away from home. Of course, going to last season and pre-season, we did beat them, but obviously not too sure how seriously they did take that game. But they are expected to be one of the better teams as well, obviously, just coming down from League 1. So a couple of interesting games will have coming up for you guys in tomorrow's episode. Fingers crossed I won't be too hungover, but the chances are quite high, probably higher than getting a cold, windy night in Stoke. But until tomorrow, for our first crack at the EFL Cup as well as that Mansfield Town game, thank you very much for watching. Keep on keeping on, and I'll see you then. Cheers.